Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this video. Thanks for tuning in. My microphone is stuck. Sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome, and welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. I'm going to be doing a little light on, light off, depending on these crazy cars behind me. All right, so I want to go into a little energy update, maybe a little flow. We'll see what I have time for. So I'll share some of the things I've been writing about. And this morning, as I was writing, what I was guided to share is I was writing up a shitstorm. Now, you guys, I know that many of us are in different places. Some of us are going through a lot of old shadow work that's coming up again. And I think there's a lot of people that are like, oh man, I really thought I was over this. I thought that was it. I thought that last run in 2019 and 2020 and 21 was it. Here we are yet again. But the reason I'm using the word shitstorm is because I literally am writing up a lot of information, and I keep being guided to go back to 2019. A lot of the things I wrote about in 2019 are coming to fruition now. So I was gently reminded by my guidance team that many of the things that I'm writing about now may be coming to fruition in the future. And that's kind of the message over and over again from my team. It's like, be there now. Be present with what you're experiencing now, but recognize that all is one. And that's W-O-N-E, right? O-N-E. And when we begin to stay in a place of presence and we observe what is going on around us in recognition and acknowledgement that all is one, W-O-N and O-N-E, we start to recognize that what's playing out in front of us is the past. It is plans that had been prepared for and planned for back when things were different. And things truly are different now. We are in such a different frequency and a higher rate of information exchange that the plans that were what I wrote this morning, well laid out, was a play on words. They're laid out like when you lay someone out, boom, knock them out. But they're laid out. We've laid them to rest. But they haven't been able to have been laid to rest because they have to play out. And so we're watching these things play out in accordance with old accordances, with old frequencies and energies based on this overlay of realities, if that makes sense. I just jumped right into it. So just as a little explanation about that, we're seeing it from different perspectives, points of views. We're seeing different directives because there's a lot of different directors that are playing out their own movie according to old accordances, agreements that were made before this time, yet they're playing out in this time as we merge with this new time construct. And this is something I'm still processing. I probably will still be processing it in the next 20 videos. I don't know. But essentially, I dreamed of this old energy that looked a little bit like a squid. It looked like a sci-fi movie. It looked like a squid that had been injured, and it was like a pod, and all of these black vines that looked like black veins were growing from it, and they had kind of embedded themselves in this house, okay, that was in the kitchen and the bedroom, but they weren't, I was starting to pull off where I found these vines and these veins, and then I finally got to the energy, which was like you could call it black goo, but it wasn't exactly black goo. It was remnants, and it was, trying to regroup. And I found it, figured out where it was hiding. It was on this island in the kitchen of this house. So the kitchen is where there's a lot of cooking and cleaning going on constantly, right? Where you cook. My point in sharing this is it's an energetic displacement that's happening for many people. So many people are feeling displaced and not sure where to direct their movie, or where their movie is being directed to. And the biggest message that I'm receiving is, remember that all is one. So once we kind of come into a place of taking a deep breath and recognizing that everything is not as it seems, we can then feel into what they called, source streams. And I was being shown streamers of light and energy that is literally pouring on the earth right now, pouring down from the sun, boiling up from the earth, and it is literally embedded within our own bones, and we are essentially reverberating these frequencies the more we become a vibrational match. Now, I wanted to just clarify that as well, because not every day is going to be sunshine and rainbows. When I say vibrational match, we're a tuning fork. That doesn't mean that we're always going to be tuning into these higher frequencies, and we are not always going to feel like we're able to hold on to that frequency, and that's okay. But being responsible, and the words I wrote this morning were holding ourselves accountable. So it's time, from another perspective, to stop pointing the finger at others. I had someone say to me the other day, it was difficult for them to believe in something they had read about an individual who's experienced near-death experiences, because they didn't have those same beliefs. And I really valued this conversation because I saw it from so many different perspectives, and I could see that. This person had mentioned, well, they don't believe in reincarnation, and I do. And they believe that when you pass over, everything is forgiven, and I can't live, they couldn't say I can't live with that, but it was like, I don't feel that that's true, and if that's the case, then what's the point? And I was really guided to just take a step back and say, I invite you now to reorganize that sentence a little bit and ask yourself, where are these beliefs coming from? Are these beliefs that I am holding on to holding me back in any way, shape, or form? Are these beliefs that I'm holding on to about what our reality should or should not look like holding us back in any way, shape, or form? Is this information that I am holding on to, that I am embedding within my reality structure, creating a knot or tying me up in any way and binding me to a signature frequency that no longer fits in my expandability? Is this a pocket of resistance? Right? Is this something I can bank on? Would you be willing to bet your values on that belief in this new reality? And what if, and you guys, I'm just playing with this, so I invite you to be just open-minded and open-hearted about this, because I do feel this is challenging for a lot of people. I find challenges with this at times. Like, ooh, can I forgive that person? Sometimes it takes me a minute. And not everybody's there, and that's okay. It's okay. So I came into that space of, where have I been, where is this applicable to me? And this is what I wrote about this morning. My guides were saying, we need to hold each other accountable by holding ourselves accountable. It's not necessarily by us pointing the finger at someone else or saying, I will be happy when I know that person gets what they deserve or gets what's coming to them. And ultimately thinking about that sentence in itself, when someone gets what's coming to them, it is not our responsibility to give them, right? Or to judge what it is that they have, that they deserve. Once again, those are they, them, my belief about what they should, how they will be experiencing the afterlife. Well, they're going to go. All of this, we're being invited to really take a step back and recognize when we're doing that, myself included. I mean, I see things play out and I'm just, wow, that person's really a piece of work, right? And so a piece of what work? Whose works? Where? All is one. And by the way, I'm just playing with this a little bit. I'm not saying that we're always going to feel, oh, that person just did atrocities. I bless them, love and light. That's not what I'm necessarily referring to. But I am being invited by my guidance team to take a step back and recognize every time I am projecting a particular belief or view, feeling, or hostility onto another human being. It's that simple. And catching myself before I get caught up in the story of that belief that may be holding me back from experiencing or feeling into the greater expansiveness of something else, that presentation of that story or opportunity, it's giving me an opportunity to see something deeper. So if that makes sense, I'm playing with these words a little bit. And that's the challenge for many of us right now, or many people right now. So I was really guided to kind of play with that with this person I was speaking about. A lot of anger is coming up for a lot of people, a lot of old stuff. I wanted to share too, a lot of really cool abilities are coming online for people. Sidebar, if you guys are interested, for example, I'm playing with time a lot and time capsules and different frequencies and energies that I'm tuning into for healing modalities. I have a friend who's exploring new realms right now. I mean, a bunch of my friends are just doing different things that I'm just like, whoa, this is really cool. This is really exciting. My friend Jess from YoThera, if you guys are interested, is doing a workshop about embodiment. If you happen to be in the Boise, Idaho area, I'll share her link on this video. I'll go back and post it by the end of the day. So if I post this during the day and then the link isn't there, come back and look at the descriptions at a later time. Or you can just check her out on Instagram at YoThera if you're interested. She's also doing a workshop, I think, in Eugene, Oregon. So embodiment, movement, breath work. And also she has some similar things we do together, if you guys feel called for that. Also, my friend Josh is doing this bilocation workshop on Saturday, which is super exciting. I shared his link in my last video before last. I'll have to update that post as well. So I'll put that in the description link if anybody's interested in bilocating. And let's just talk briefly. It doesn't have to be this big commitment on these things. Sometimes these things can be just for fun, just to kind of see where it takes you, see what questions come up. And I want to go back into this, what I'm talking about here. Ultimately, what my guidance team constantly keeps talking about is be in the heart. So if we're in a place of fear and we're watching all of this stuff play out in front of us and we're freaking out, it's okay to have a moment and be like, what is happening? But then are we getting sucked into that? Come back to the heart, come back to a place of coherence so we can come back into that place of observation, which gives us the ability to perceive with our sensory abilities so that we're not and when I say not misperceiving, what's the right word? Misinterpreting them. when we interpret something, you know, as healers and light workers, intuitives, mediums, tarot card readers, artists, we're interpreting things based on the frequency that we're holding and the experiences that we've had. So if we're in a place of fear, or we're in a place of projection, or we haven't quite been able to come into that space of neutrality, that is going to come through in our work. So this is where the inner work is so important. Oftentimes I work with individuals who are focused so much on helping other people, yet they're coming from a place of projection of what they believe reality looks like. And this is kind of the message I was sharing at the beginning of this video, that they're projecting that onto whomever it is that they're working with and healing. I've done it unintentionally, of course, but at the same time, that's part of the learning process. But if we can do it and learn it before we work with someone else, or recognize when we're doing it as we work with someone else, we can then expand out of that or through that. And it's a gift because then we can recognize and acknowledge that that's what's going on. Some people are so lost in the projections that they feel it's their bubble that they live within. And that's a whole other video I could go into, but it's not necessary really, because that's all shifting so quickly for many of us. So just being aware of what we're holding on to in our own field then helps us to recognize and access the multidimensionality, yet not getting so pulled into the multidimensionality that we're not able to embody, right? And that's where workshops like Jess's would be cool. And it's embodiment, and it's feeling into our own receptibility. Because some people aren't sure how to do that, or they forget. I forget sometimes. I get so lost in bilocation or meditation, where I'm out there all of the time in the cosmos, that I have to rein it back in and go. So it's playing with both of those and finding that centeredness. And that's one thing that's cool about Josh, is he's bringing us into that centered awareness, usually with his voice. But it's important for us to utilize these tools, aka other humans and light workers and their gifts and abilities, but we have to find our own center, because it is not their responsibility to help us grow. It is our responsibility. And this always comes back to the message of this particular moment, which is taking responsibility for our own projections, our own judgments, our own fears, and then holding space for ourselves to process those things, right? Acknowledge and recognize that that's what we're processing. It's work, you guys. It's so simple. Yet it is also, when we're in it and we're working through it, sometimes can seem not so simple. Then we look back on it and go, boy, I can't believe I made such a mountain out of a molehill. But the molehill, if you look at a molehill, holds this fine dirt that has all these nutrients in it, right? And it's essentially this coming up from underneath to then be exposed so that we can digest it and use it for a usable resource. The other thing that my guides talked about in my writing this morning, when it was dark, I was writing all of this, is that the dark is side by side right now. So the light and the dark are merging. And it is literally, the energy that I keep seeing is yin and yang. And it's black and white, dark and light, and we're seeing it neck and neck. We're seeing it next to each other. This is a good thing from one perspective, and I still haven't processed everything that I've written. This is a good thing because it gives us the ability to look into each other's eyes and to see the humanity, but also see the to see what we are not. and to then recognize and acknowledge that. And I know there's this thing, well, we are all things and we are all one, yet we are not only one or the other, right? We are both. And this is this essence of polarity, but we're moving out of that and back into that unique oneness through our individuality and complexity of our multidimensionality that holds many different subsets and beautiful frameworks within our skin suit technology and within our own blueprint. So recognizing and honoring that each person is within their own unique individual path. So we're seeing it, which means that the dark isn't hidden down below anymore. It's right here staring at us straight in the eyes. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, part of the answer to that is, from one perspective, because there's many different perspectives here, but from one perspective is to see it. I see you. I acknowledge you. And by doing that, we essentially dissolve it, merge with it, to then utilize the information that it holds so that we can then alchemize and transition through into and up into the next layer. So it's not like we're taking it with us, but we are in essence allowing it to come up so that it can be so many words, right? I've already said so many of these words: alchemized, utilized, transformed, moved through, acknowledged, resolved, dissolved, right? Composted. And it's not always pleasant to see that. But part of what we're doing is dealing with that now so that we're not carrying all this heaviness and baggage with us. It's time to let that go. So my dream about this, it's still trying to grow and create, but it's not able to, and it's almost angry in some pockets because it's not able to. But that anger is sometimes our anger that hasn't been resolved. Although sometimes it doesn't belong to us. So which is it? That's up to you. That's up to the individual. What belongs to me and what belongs to the other person, even though we're working through this collectively. I do not choose to take on another person's baggage as my own, yet I choose to see where I may be holding similar baggage within my own field seeing theirs gives me the opportunity to process my own. That is taking responsibility for my own growth and well-being. And this is kind of the message that's coming through. Okay. What else? So much. A lot of people want to know what this looks like. What is the system going to look like? What's going to happen? And ultimately, many intuitives are having difficulty channeling or tuning into what's happening, because if I look at the collective energy, well, I see all kinds of things, but there's a lot of chaos. And so how do you make sense of the chaos? Ultimately, it comes back to us. Everything is within. So if we are chaos and we are chaotic, which at moments this month particularly, I've had those moments, and what kept coming through was rein it in, Carrie, rein it in. So what does that mean for me? Put your crown on, be your own kingdom. Be your own queen of your domain, which is your body, which is your thoughts, which is what's in your heart, which is how you communicate. And that, when you put it back into perspective like that, like I did for me, I was like, oh man, how am I ruling, measuring, valuing my own domain? It's not about what's going on out there. It starts with us first. Number one, O-N-E. So if all is one, then we are number one, not from an ego perspective, but from the ability to clarify. And I always think of clarified butter. clarify and pull out what needs to be extracted from this example, from this movie scene, in order to gain clarity, in order to clarify, PHI, the golden, coming back into that golden spin, and whatever that might be for, right. So that's kind of where we're at. There was more that came through. Oh, I was seeing a lot of in my dreams too. It's been clearing up a lot of last night it was all about, it's been a lot about dump trucks, cleaning up the mess, a lot about just gross, broken pipes, lots of sludge coming up. You guys, it has to come up, period, ... I had written, you know, the ... what's next? We have to connect the dots. And we may be doing that by jumping around a little bit, but ultimately we are doing that. And so when we start to connect our own dots of centered awareness, our own realizations, we then clear up our own kingdom, you know, clear up our own home, our own council, our own house. And that allows us to then move out into the world and hold space or create. The other thing that came through is it's not just about holding space sometimes. It's about creating new space, creating and seeing, where am I creating? What am I creating in? What energies and frequencies am I utilizing to create? Where am I creating from? If we haven't acknowledged and we're not recognizing that, then what are we creating from? More chaos, right? I think I said that earlier. So I had to recognize, ooh, feeling a little chaotic. Maybe I've got to take a step back. You guys, there's a lot. I've seen so much shift literally this week. It's happening so quickly that if we're hanging on to certain expectations for certain outcomes to happen, it's only going to hold us back from what my guidance team has shared with me. So, yeah, I'm going to end on that note. I'll hopefully share some things this weekend about what I've written. And just play with that a little bit. So in love and light, guys, thank you so much for tuning in as always. Have fun co-creating with each other. And if you've left me comments, I'm trying to catch up. But I am grateful for everybody who tunes into this channel. And just all of you guys, all of us are doing so much. Just remember that, because sometimes it feels like we're not doing enough, or it feels like we feel helpless because of what we are watching playing out. But one thing we can do that we always have the ability to control is our own resources, our own ability. There's a lot of fear that's being pushed into us. And I see it as, you know, we've cut off the limbs of these, whatever we want to call it, and those limbs have basically been spread out, and they're trying desperately to grow in our houses, our own kingdom. And we have to stop and clear out the debris, clear out the vines, clear out the clear it out. And this is going to take sometimes doing over and over again, but the more we do it, the less difficult it becomes. Although it doesn't mean it's less difficult, it just becomes different, right? So the work that I'm doing, I'm clearing some things out this week, but it's still different than it was 4 years ago. It's still, I have a different perspective than I did when this type of cycle showed up for me 4 years ago, because I'm not the same person, right, that I was then. Neither is the reality that I exist within. Therefore, the amount of time it takes me to process, clear, and dissolve is so different. And in addition to that, the change that ripples out is seen much faster. So that's exciting as well. All right, guys, in love and light, namaste.